Look at data of business flows, it's very obvious that it's the large distributors who seem to be drawing most of the business, and probably at the expense of the small distributors. And the benefit of hindsight, one would have wished that would not have happened.
Anup, is that a problem? When Milind is saying that the distribution is this thing circulated around just few large distributors. Okay.
This is better.
Okay, this is better. Sorry, the mic got this thing down. Okay, so just wanted to ask you that when Milind is saying that the distribution seems to be concentrated around only some few large distributors, how big is that problem? Really, because if you see that the fleet on street really hasn't increased, the fleet on street actually has gone down. So is the concentration good news or actually it's a bad news?
No, so first of all, it is a fact. So, there is no debate around it. Of the 4,700 odd crores that happened, if you see banks obviously are in the top 5, 6. If you look at, then that is fact number one. Fact number two, if you look at number of people selling mutual funds, okay, that also actually has increased. It's in the format of a banking format as against the IFA format and the national distributor format. So that is also true that the bank feet on street, because they are treated as one, while they are not one. So that distribution has also increased manyfold. So that is also there that it has certainly shifted. Whether it is good, bad or ugly, the fact of the matter is that it's not healthy. It's not healthy because any channel growing its dominance is not very, very healthy. So you must have a mix of distributor types who sell because they add different kinds of values. Now, if you look at, from a macro perspective on this balance of distributors and manufacturers, which is the real debate, I would say that, 4,700 odd crores, we should divide it by the total number of the top line of all the AMCs put together. Because the public discourse seems to be that 4,700 crores of commission as if it is the profit of distributors. Come on, it's not the profit of distributor, it's like the top line, just the way it is the top line. So if you actually divide 4,700 whatever divided by 15,000 crores, which will be the sigma of all the distributors, we are talking of a shade less than 33%, around 32%. Now, in a market which has to be expanded, is 32% a good percentage to pay to a distributor, will give us some peek into whether the balance is okay or not okay. So for that, maybe there are some learnings from other industries. So let's say if we take FMCG, so in FMCG industries, the distribution is completely outsourced. Okay. It is quite similar because you use a pipe and all FMCG companies flow through the pipe. Their manufacturing costs are also lower because that is also outsourced. But the cost of raw materials are high. If you net that is total sales less raw material cost, and then you start to see the distribution cost, ad cost, promotion cost, and part of the salary cost, employee cost, which is towards sales, you will typically see that is 45 to 50%. So if a steady state industry is at 45 to 50%, and an emerging industry where things have to be invested, if that is at 33%, it looks to me, although those are not identical things, but just a pointer just to start off the debate, it looks to me that one should spend more than 40, 45%, 50%. Another way of looking at the whole thing is, if you look at banks, take out the third-party distribution and hence bulk of the fees. If you look at NII, they are tight distribution. A bank sells its own deposits, it doesn't sell other people's deposits. Bank books its own loans, it doesn't book any other's loan. So it's a tight distribution in the sense that you have created your own distribution network. And so if you see the total cost of that distribution, which is branch cost plus employee cost, XYZ, and not taking credit costs into account, and you divide it by the total NII plus the fees which is attributable to this, you will again typically see that it is 50, 55%. Or perhaps higher, maybe 55%. So clearly it looks to me that it looks underinvested. I'm saying industry as a whole. If you look at, again, life insurance industry, because, the other, sort of the pet debate and public discourse is, we are not selling this, some life insurance is getting sold. If you look at the total capital that has got invested in life insurance, in most of the cases, it is the first time, maybe in the last 2-3 years that accumulated losses have got wiped out. The equity capital that is put in the business is essentially argued that it should be for solvency, but if you actually look at it, it has gone towards distribution and not towards solvency. Because, one doesn't have that kind of, solvency kind of product that is built into the thing. So there clearly, that has over-invested, I would say, in distribution. And so that one may argue that whether it is right or wrong. But clearly, if you look at all of it together, looks to me that mutual fund industry as a whole has underinvested in distribution. Okay, it has underdistributed when we look at, other parameters. So I'll be actually quite keen to hear, to see that, whether it is okay or not okay. The other one pointer that I again see is that, what is the difference between the delta between a direct plan and a regular plan. So if the direct plan and regular plan, the delta seems to be 50 basis points, 75 basis points. And the discourse again is that there is no distributor and so the distributor cost is 0.75. Again, when I divide 0.75 by 2.25 or whatever, again it comes to 33%. So looks to me that the whole industry seems to be underinvested. It looks also to me that there also seems to be a problem of concentration, which is again not a great concentration because you must have power balance within the industry and hence checks and balances within the industry. So I think more needs to be certainly done to promote a product which is a fantastic product. Actually, it's the best product for everybody. So I am very keen to hear.
Okay, but Vishal, when he's saying that mutual fund industry is not really invested in the distribution space, is it possible, because we've had a lot of back and forth as to what is the right amount of commission that needs to be paid, what is the right amount of upfronts, what is the right amount of trails. Now that an industry which has grown over the past 25 years.
You take it up. Okay. No, we have to take it up. Put it here.
Can you hear me now? Oh, sorry, my apologies. Okay, so Vishal, I repeat my question. He's saying, Anup is saying that, the industry hasn't really invested so much in the distribution space. My question is that, for an industry which is about 25 years old, we've had a lot of back and forth as to what is the right amount of commission that needs to be paid, what shouldn't be paid, what should be paid. Can there ever be a consensus in the current scenario as to what is the right amount of commission, what is the right amount of compensation that needs to be paid, or are we still in a phase where we are still experimenting? Because, you have one, the AMC's profitability, which has, grown by a reasonable margin. You still don't have, the distributors, active distributors growing by, a reasonable margin. You don't have penetration still happening.
Right. I think, I don't know if this is audible at the back. Yeah, okay. I think to your question, which is, are we at the right stage? Are we balanced as yet, et cetera? I think it's important to understand what is our objective. And I think all our colleagues on the panel will agree, if our combined objective is that penetration of mutual funds in the Indian financial household savings is minuscule, and we have a good product, like Anup mentioned, it should be far larger. What do we need to do? And who is going to do it? Right, we agree with that. We need to grow that, and a distributor has to play that work. Then let's work back from there. At the margin, let's work the financials that a distributor needs to put in or work on to make that a profession. Now, I don't know if we can do a show of hands, but how many of our IFA or distributor colleagues have made profits in the first 3 years of the business, if you were to start a business today? Would anyone make business, profits in first 3 years if you were to start today with a business model? Let's do the financials to say, okay, X basis point of upfront, Y basis point of trailer, what business, if you're a profession, you will put up a business plan, right? If that business plan doesn't work, then we have to ask ourselves a deeper question. Why doesn't it work?
You need to ask yourselves, you need to ask the fund houses.
No, we have to ask together. I don't think it's a debate. We together have this responsibility. So I don't think this is I agree with Milind. It's not it's not a three-way sort of, we're pulling each other. It is a common objective to serve a larger opportunity that we all see, right? So it's a good product. Over the last 20, 25 years, we've got very good established track record. The large opportunity is actually it's among the best performing products, 20, 25% compounded growth over very long periods of time, right? Yet, 96% of financial savings seems to be going somewhere else, and that's only financial savings. Actually, the large part of the household saving is going into real assets, right? So we are not even 2 or 3% of actual potential. What do we do to take all of this up? And I think that's the reason we are all here, which is what can we do to grow this? It has to start with the fact that recognize that if this has to be a profession, we have to make it work for someone to come in and say, okay, over a 3-year period, I will make money in this. Like Anup said, and like Milind said, for a bank, it is relatively easier. That's why we've seen more investments in bank, because that cost gets distributed over, and there are other efficiencies that you can work through. But for a dedicated IFA, I think still there will be enough, there's a fair amount of challenge there. And, are the commission levels excessive? I think the market is the best provider of that answer. If they were excessive, you would have a plethora of distributors joining to even out supernormal profit, as they say in economic theory. If there's no supernormal profit and people are actually exiting, then we have to ask the question, if this was so attractive and people were so well paid, you would have a growing number of distributors, wouldn't you?
Okay. Sunil, what do you think of this equation? Why are we not talking about investors? We're talking about fund houses. Milind is saying, let's leave the investors aside. Can we really afford to leave the investors? Because your product, as everyone knows, that it's a transparent product, it's a very well-regulated product. But we haven't had a gush of investors coming in. So in this to and fro between the AMCs and the distributors, are we ignoring, AMC and the distributors, are we ignoring investors?
In fact, it's the very opposite, Kaizad. Let's take a 10-year time frame, right? An average mutual fund would have delivered 20% per annum, right? Average expense ratio charged to a scheme is 2%, right? Average distribution commission, let's say, is 1%. Customers earn 20% per annum over 10 years. AMC has earned 2 minus 1. Distributor has earned 1. Where's the question of imbalance? Customer has made 18% per annum return, and you're fighting about saying balance. 90% of the gains in the stock market through active management have been passed on to the investor. Why are we questioning the balance? The reason we are questioning the balance is because the penetration of mutual funds is so low that clearly we haven't attracted enough customers into the industry. Why is that so low? Because customers don't understand this product, correct? So educating the customer that this is the product which can deliver to you 20% over 10 years is the point. Who is going to do that education? It's got to be the distributor, right? He is the voice of the customer, right? Now, have we made it attractive for the distributor to go and pitch a 20% per annum product to the customer? Abysmal. Why? AMFI registrations are what? Today, 1 lakh. You know how many distributors get paid commission monthly? 30,000 people. In a population of 1.2 billion, we are having only 30,000 people who are willing to go and sell or explain mutual funds as a 18% profit generating product to the customer. So clearly, where the question is the balance has to be with the voice of the customer, which is the distributor, right? So I think this debate, the whole thing started because of the press. Mis-selling, right? Whereas the right answer is right buying. The customer has to be guided to buy right. Don't go and say mis-selling. The moment you say mis-selling, you're making your industry out to be a prostitution business. You're making it a black mark, right? Right? And look at the steps, right? Look at the steps the industry has taken, right? What we used to pay commission by charging the scheme first, right? 6% commission. Then you say, take that off. Don't charge the scheme. Take away upfront. Then you introduce direct. Give the customer an option to go direct. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to encourage somebody to go and pitch the product, or are you trying to make the customer directly come and buy something which he doesn't understand in the first place? So I think the balance has to be clear. the balance has to be with distribution.
But you're aware that Milind is on the AMFI board.
Pardon?
Milind is on the AMFI board, you're aware of that?
No, see, we are all members of AMFI. Just because in the board, all of us have a voice to speak, we speak. But I'm not saying, I'm just saying from a larger perspective, right? When we are talking about balance, right? The problem for us is not about are the components of this industry balanced as much as is our industry anywhere close to the size it should be. So for it to grow, you have to tilt the balance. Water flows to the right level from a high level to a low level. Unless you tilt the balance in a way which favors the growth of the industry, which is to strengthen the arms of the distributor. And it's not just more commissions, it's about giving respect to that business. It's about recognizing the value that he's bringing by getting a tough customer who's got a guaranteed, government guaranteed, assured return bank deposit product at the other end. That's what we are competing against. And he's doing a tough job of trying to convince him into a risk-based product, right? So we have to strengthen his hand. So I think for me, the question of balance is you have to tilt it in favor of increasing distribution, making it respectable, and pushing the industry towards that. So ultimately, customers do right buying. So that's my perspective to this.
Okay, so Vivek, let me now. Okay, Vivek, let me now come to you.
Right.
So in light of what the rest of the panel has said, I wanted to turn the panel's attention now to the Sumit Bose committee, which was recently, tabled.
They're not able to hear you again.
Not able to hear me? Not able to hear me, okay. Can you hear me? Not?
Hey, हाथ में हाथ में ले लो.
Facing the mouth like this.
Okay.
Hold it in your hand.
Hold in your hand.
I'll hold it. Now can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Now can you hear me? Okay. Okay, Vivek. So now I just wanted to turn your attention to the Sumit Bose committee. See, basically, obviously, the investor, according to the committee recommendations, you will now debate whether the committee recommendations can be taken forward or not. But, what the committee says is that to address the issue of mis-selling and to address the issue of regulatory arbitrage, the committee is now recommending that the regulator that gets to regulate the product should be defined by the function and not by the form. So which means that your investment function of a product will be governed by the investment regulator. The annuity would be governed by the PFRDA, and the insurance part would be governed by the RDA, the insurance regulator. So this basically brings kind of parity between all different kinds of products, and which means that the costs and the regulatory structures will be balanced across products. Do you think this can put the investor back in the center point of the focus and to ensure that the growth of the mutual fund industry can be taken care of because you're removing the regulatory arbitrage?
So it's a complex question that you've asked. So firstly, there are many reasons why the industry hasn't grown. And one reason is that if you put your money, lazy money, if you put it in a bank, you get 9% on your FD. So when you get, you don't have to tax yourself. If you get 9% in the bank, then, there's only so much you can sell a mutual fund, which is, volatile. And, most people don't see 20% because 20% you see over a cycle, or 10, 15, 18, 20% you see over a cycle. Average holding in mutual funds is 3 years or 4 years. So, or less than 3 years in some cases. So bottom line is, everybody talks about a 10 and 20 year, horizon, which the mutual funds have delivered, but everybody is staying in the fund for only 3 years. So they only see the 3-year return, and depending when you get in and when you get out, it can either be good, or it could be bad, or it could be ugly, right? So that's, one issue. Now, we have some funds that, if you look at just numbers, people who invested in our blue chip fund when it was launched in 1993 have actually made more than 70x. And they are actually a handful of investors who have stayed the entire 21 years. And they have made that 70x. So they've actually seen it, right? So that's one issue I would say. The second thing, talking about the Sumit Bose committee, I think there is one issue in India that we are competing with insurance, with pensions, nothing is really working for the investor, right? We had a tiff with the insurance, so their commissions were reduced at 2-3 years ago between our regulator and their regulator. Elsewhere in the world, the investment management industry works very closely with the insurance industry. In fact, the underlying investments in ULIPs are really invested in mutual funds. So it's a partnership. We work together. The investment cost of the product is the same cost as the mutual fund because they're investing in mutual funds. Probably cheaper than what a normal investor could get because most of these investments, because we're dealing institution to institution, go into the institutional share class, which is cheaper than the retail share class, right? On top of that, what the insurance company charges is for the regulator to see whether that's appropriate or no. And that's, obviously insurance, you're bringing in clients for 30 years, 40 years, you're trying to hold them there. So the dynamics of that industry are different. But the underlying investment offshore is with mutual funds. Mutual funds manage that. Pension money, we manage pension money all over the world. But here we have a separate pension regulator, and the pension regulator also in other countries may be different. But the underlying skill of investment management lies with the asset management companies. And asset management is a business of scale. And it is expensive. Our most expensive resources are our portfolio managers. And you are not allowing them to achieve scale because you've created these silos. And in creating those silos, you've created, that I can win only at the cost of the insurance industry because his commissions are higher. So we're all moving to the lowest common denominator, which is making life difficult. So, but I do agree that if you allowed all investment products to be managed, if you give access to the asset management industry to manage it, we'll manage it on a competitive basis. When we, 10 years ago, both Tata AIG and Max New York Life, their assets were advised by Franklin Templeton before it was taken in-house. And if you go back and see in 2006, 2007, the best performing insurance companies in terms of their underlying investments, it was these two companies. So there's a lot of confusion about, what is happening. I do think the regulatory arbitrage needs to be taken out. And it's for the same reason we are saying that why can't the investment management industry, and I think calling us the mutual fund industry is a mistake. That assumes that our only job is to manage mutual funds.
Asset management.
Yeah, we are asset management, investment management, but it's when you hear about us in the press, it's usually the mutual fund industry. Nobody really talks about the investment management or the asset management industry. So these are the issues. We should be able to manage pension money. Today, everybody is talking very happily about the fact that the NPS is the lowest cost product. That's great. But the voluntary part of NPS, there are hardly any investors in it. Why? Because there's no money on the table for anyone, for the distributors, for the managers who manage it, right? So in India, if you are expecting, say, a balanced fund, forget an equity fund. If you think a balanced fund will give you 12, 13% compounded, right? Is it too much for the investor to pay a 1% or 1.5% fee to get access to a product that is giving you 13, 14% return? Is it too much to expect that? In the process, we are either not giving them access or they're ending up in the bank where they're getting 9%. So the whole debate is one of reducing the costs instead of passing on value to investors and giving access. And I think it's the giving access that we need to focus on. And in that, I think we have a partnership with the distributors because distributors play an important role. I just want to come back to this whole, all this calculations that my good friend Anup gave. The way I look at it, the maths is very simple. and you can, if anybody in the audience feels that it's wrong, please stand up and correct me. In any large equity fund, the marginal TR is 1.95%. Anything more than 700 crores, the marginal TR is 1.95. The actual TR you see includes service tax and what is the additional we charge in the B15 cities, which is actually a pass-through. It's all paid out to distributors, so we don't make that money. It's 1.95. If you assume that your admin expenses are 25 basis points, you're left with 170. Most distributors are getting somewhere between 100 and 110. What we are left with is 60 basis points to 70 basis points net. Distributors are getting 100 to 110. Now you have service tax. So service tax 14% works out to 8. If it's 100 basis points, it works out to 88. If it's 110 basis points, it works out to 97 or 97. So in the equation, we are either making 70 and the distributors are making 88, both net of service tax, or we are making 60 and distributors are making 97. So in this debate about service tax, what has been forgotten, in the old days, for 8-9 years ago, we all used to make 100 basis points at the margin on equity funds. Nobody made less than that. We made the maximum fees on equity funds. Today we are making 60 basis points or 70 basis points.
Vivek, can I interrupt you? Can we talk about service tax
Okay.
after this thing? We'll just continue. Anyways, this thing will open the panel for audience questions, so we'll have a lot of service tax over there. Questions also, I'm sure.
Okay.
But Anup, let me ask you, when the committee, I'm sure you must have gone through the Bose committee report recommendations, when there is an attempt being made to align the regulators as per the product function, do you think it's feasible? Do you think it can actually happen? As Vivek was saying that you can't have earlier mutual funds used to manage pension money. That obviously is not allowed by regulations right now. But if you align the regulators as per the function of the product, do you think this product arbitrage can genuinely go away? And that's when the distributors can gravitate to products that are actually giving, as Sunil was saying, about 20% or 18% returns.
See, I have issue with both the opening premises. One, that there is extreme amount of mis-selling and that has to be somehow curbed. I don't think in mutual fund industry there is any extreme amount of mis-selling. So I don't think any regulator, any policymaker should approach any industry unless sort of definitely proven that it is only mis-sold and it is never sold. That is one. And second, that the cost is so high, that it has to be brought to zero. We cannot make policy based on these two, faulty premises. Now, coming back to this whole thing that, why should